9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
It's the Rocket Hour. Y'all are now tuned in. Time to hit the pick four that you'd love to win. If your money's coming slow, step on the faster track with your host, Ricky Pasternak. Let's go.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Rocket Hour. It's unlike just listening to Aaron and I speak about nothing for an hour. We have a special guest on with us today. I asked Aaron yesterday if I should kind of just spring it on everyone or if I should maybe do an introduction. But Aaron said, you know what, tell the folks, tell the viewers. So I did. Rachel McLaughlin is on with us. She was so kind to come on. I know her schedule is incredibly busy. Aaron, before I throw it to Rachel, how excited are you to have her on and just pick your brain about Indiana Grand, maybe a little Kentucky Derby, and obviously we'll get to a late pick four sequence at Keeneland today as well.
Listen, everybody knows I watch all the small tracks. Indiana Grand is the biggest track on those weekdays, so you know I'm excited to have Rachel on. I watch Rachel every day, so I'm pumped. I'm a little starstruck right now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a little starstruck too, and Rachel. Rachel even told us, she said it's a little early, but I'm going to do my best, and she's ready to go. We're going to fire away. Happy Masters Day, everyone. Of course, I'm the not normal one who threw in Happy Masters as my
I love the Masters. My dad is a semi-professional golfer pretty much. He golfed once a month all winter. So
wow.
I've grown up watching the Masters. It's not only fun to watch, but it's great napping TV.
It definitely
the
is.
Whispering, the music, you're like, oh, okay.
just a little background noise. It never hurt anyone. So we're gonna do. I'll give everyone a quick rundown. Thank you guys for tuning in on Thursday, April 8th at 11 a.m. Eastern time. We'll do a little background of Indiana Grand and kind of Rachel's bringing up in the sport and anything she wants to share with us, whether it's what's coming up at the track, which begins next Tuesday, their meet. She'll tell us all the new things that they're introducing, all the things that they're bringing back, because Indiana Grand does a great job of keeping things that are going well. Not everything needs change. So she'll kind of walk us through that. And then Aaron and I have some questions that we'll just throw at her, and very simple, kind of like I like to say, softball questions, very easy for her to answer. And then about midway through, around 11:30, 11:35 or so, we'll transition to Keeneland. And she sent us a pick four ticket. We will scroll that. I highly advise you listen to her, not to me. Definitely listen to Aaron and her. Put me last. Definitely put me last. It's going to be a fun show. It's so nice to have her on. So we'll get right to it. At the bottom are all these things that she sent me. And she said I didn't have to put it on, but I felt it was so necessary. There's so many things that they're going to be doing this year. So Rachel, if you can, just before I get into the Indiana Grand stuff, Aaron and I talk about it all the time. And I think there are three aspects of horse racing fans. You have fans of the horses, which I will put you into that category. I'll put Aaron and myself into that category as well. Fans of the track. So that's you're drinking your beer and hanging out at the track. All that good stuff, all the stuff we haven't been able to do.
Smoking cigars.
Yeah, exactly. Everything from one end to the spectrum to the other. And then fans of betting. And then you have us, where I think we're kind of in a mixture of that circle. Kind of talk to us about what tier or what part of that triangle do you find yourself most? And if you could maybe encourage someone who's not involved in the sport, how maybe they could just not look at it from a betting perspective or just hanging out at the track. Like how could they could interact? Because I think all three of those tiers of the triangle are really important to touch on.
Yeah, well, I think the first part of that is where I fall in is definitely all three, because I'm a horse crazy girl. I just got in from feeding my horses. And so I fell in love with the equine athletes part of this at the beginning. Then I realized how fun it was at the races. And obviously I love the handicapping. I wish I had more time to place bets. I know a lot of analysts get a lot of flack because, if you don't bet your picks, you're horrible. Why would you give them out if you don't bet them? You got to realize it's a lot of production and all the stuff that personally, I do. I try to bet them when I can, but I like the days when I love the new schedule because Friday and Saturdays we don't race. So I get to go to the Derby this year. Every year I try to go to Keeneland. I love Keeneland. It's one of my favorite tracks. And Saratoga I visited one year for EquestriaCon, and that was great. But I love sitting and drinking beer and betting the horses. So I'm really all three of those things. And I'm probably, I don't know if anybody else does this. I'm not sure. But after the races, I always go down to the OTB and sit down and drink beer with the owners and the trainers and the bettors. And I'm going to Keeneland with one of my oldest friends who's 30 years older than me, but I've known him since I was 21, and we're going to go to the Derby together. So, and I met him at the track when I was younger, and he's just a degenerate gambler. So I do a little bit of all three. But to get somebody into this, I would say that I do a wagering 101 for groups sometimes. Obviously, COVID last year I didn't get to do it, but I normally go in and I teach people how to wager. And I've seen some wagering 101s. And yes, of course, if there's a group that's, been to the track maybe before and they're not first timers, you can get a little bit more into it. But honestly, I just tell people to pick their favorite number, the favorite horse name. If they see like their kid's name, like is Tyler, and then Tyler Gaffleon's on that horse, or just little things like that, just to get them to make a bet or have an interest in it. And then I also focus a little less on the PPs at the first of that. And I just try to get people to get comfortable with making a bet, because I've found the more people I talk to that are new, and some of my friends as well, the scariest part is going up to a teller or to a machine, especially a teller, because it's such a language. I feel like it's intimidating. So just get out and enjoy the beauty of horses. You just to get to the track and let all that stuff fall into place. I feel like, and I even tried to do this when I first started, there's so much to learn. You learn something new every day in this sport. So you can't just go out there and be like, know all the stuff. And there's so much stuff to enjoy in racing. Like you said, the atmosphere and making a bet's easy once you really just break it down to the basics.
Yeah. Aaron and I, again, talk about it all the time, and I'll let him kind of touch on this. I'm afraid of the smallest dogs in the world sometimes. But when I'm near a horse that's 1,000 pounds, it feels like home. And it's kind of crazy because most people are like, I'm not getting near that horse. You see all these crazy videos where they're kicking the back, and I'm like, they're not. They're really not like that. Aaron, I know Aaron's laughing at me because I'm afraid of small dogs, but the banter here, that's one of the reasons I'm afraid to visit him, because he has a dog. Aaron, we talked about the 3 tier, like the 3 points of the triangle. What would be to tack on to Rachel's point, or to add on or take away, what would be, I guess, the best way for someone who's not involved to get involved, or if they're on at a very basic level, very low level, how they could improve on that, or how they can get more involved?
Well, you learn something new every day. I never knew you were afraid of small dogs. So I think that was the big takeaway I took out of the first 8 minutes of the show. Rachel, I think you touched on a really good point. And I remember when I first went to the track, I grew up, I was not around horses. I was not around betting or anything. And it was like rehearsing what to say to the teller. And you're right, that is nerve-wracking for a lot of new people. So I thought that was a really good point that you touched on. I think the biggest thing that you touched on, the experience of the track, right? And getting people out there and enjoying the track, because once you go, you're hooked, basically, whether you're betting names or numbers or whatever. One question that I'm really interested in, because we've talked about it, with Ricky and I and some fans that have kind of interacted with us. How did kind of you get started into the horse racing aspect of it? Because you kind of talked, hey, I'm a horse girl. I just got done feeding my horses. How did you get into the racing part of it?
Well, in Anderson, there's really not a whole lot to do where I grew up except the track. And I remember just going when I was younger. Actually, I'm pretty sure Tammy Knox, who I still work with 12 years later, who's the marketing manager at Indiana Grand, gave me like a elementary school tour of just when it was a track. It wasn't a racina, it was just a track. So, or someone, and the marketing office I ended up working in, but I had just grown up going to the track. My late grandfather, Killer, was he was chief of police for 30 years, so he knew everybody. So he went every weekend, and he taught me how to read the program. He liked harness a little bit better than he liked thoroughbred, but I ended up being partial to thoroughbred. And honestly, I had kept that information to myself for a while. And then when I was in high school, I was dating a guy that him and his friends like to go. They're all 18. So then that's when I like brought out all this stuff I knew. They were like talking about the program, and I was like, that's not what that means. And they were like, what is this sophomore girl telling me? Get out of here. So I guess I've just always, I was not raised. I have gated horses. I've had off the track thoroughbreds. I've had horses now as I'm older, and I was horse crazy and took lessons when I was little, but I don't have a trainer parent. I don't have a trainer husband, or my husband worked in the racino industry as well, and now he does his own thing. So he knows it. He knows the people. He knows the industry. He wrote press releases for us for a couple years. I mean, he knows about it, but I don't have a background in it. I forget what Ed calls that term, but so I loved horses. And when I was in sports marketing at Ball State, I needed an internship, and it's a whole semester, 12 credit hour. You don't go to class. You literally have to work in your field. And I was like, oh my gosh, obviously I want to work with horses. So I got the marketing internship there. And back then they didn't have a track analyst. So I just was natural on camera, which I guess is one of my strengths, is I just have a presence on camera, which is really kind of hard. You either have that or you don't. So they turned me into the handicapper. I got yelled at a lot. I made a lot of dumb mistakes. I started really slow, just announcing like plays and stuff. And they just kind of molded me into what they wanted. And every year it's just grown and grown to where now I'm the production manager, and I make the production schedules and the scripts and all that.
Yeah, that's actually a great segue. Yeah, the transformation. I know exactly what you're talking about in terms of the 12 credit hour and things like at Syracuse. I had to do the same thing. And I did it with Syracuse basketball. So I know you literally take no classes, folks. It's literally like 40 hours a week. Like, you don't go to campus. Yeah. You can.
No, you don't.
You don't. You're not required to. So I know exactly what you're
talking
about.
And it's awesome, though. I believe this is totally a tangent off of the racing subject, but I believe that you should have to get a job before you go to college in the field. Not even a job, just go shadow or work for a couple hours every day for a few weeks in the office or the place or wherever you want to work or have your degree. Because I started out in broadcasting, which is what I ended up in, but then I switched it to sports marketing. I got a job in the football office, and then it ended up being back in that field. Just, I saw so many people, there's so many people that go to school and they end up switching their major because they had no idea what it really entailed. So I think everyone should have to do that. And that's why I ended up going to racing. I wanted to work in football, and I ended up going racing because I loved it. But everyone should have to do that. Kids, take my advice.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I think that's one of the reasons, right? Well, why people switch their majors so much. It's not because they're wrong about their decisions. I think they're uninformed, and
right.
They're not. But it is a nice segue into Indiana Grand and what you're doing now. Like you said, you do all the scripts, and your official title is obviously please check her out on Twitter. She's a racing analyst and production manager. So in a summed up way, you could kind of tell us what you're doing. I guess technically we're still in the off season for you. Technically,
yeah.
So I know there's probably no real off season.
One more week. That's it.
Exactly. One more week. So kind of tell us what you've been working on, and we'll get into the full details, what you've been working on, and kind of what your day-to-day is right now, and then what your day-to-day is going to be Tuesday morning come next week, and how things are going to change from Tuesday morning until the first week in November. So kind of give the fans a little bit of what you've been doing and what you have to look forward to in the next multiple months, I should say.
I have been trying to keep us relevant in the off season, do some giveaways, have some fun on social media. It's just social media has really taken over our jobs, and racing Twitter seems to be where it's at. So I've been doing a lot of that. I'm me and I think Alyssa Ali as well. There's just a few that are full time. I don't go to another track in the winter. I'm a salary employee. They didn't know what to do with me. I was a first track analyst. So in the winter, they were like, Rachel, I was like an executive host for a winner when I first started, which was awesome because I learned a lot about the casino, which has really benefited me. I have a marketing minor, so I have always been in marketing. I plan stuff. I've done giveaways for the casino. I've been the girl on the mic giving away the $60,000 or the Mustang. So, but now that I've got so much more responsibility, a lot of it is just planning the meet. By the time I can't take any of my PTO during the racing, so I take it like all in the winter, and then there's the holidays. And after January 1st, it's pretty much like, let's sit down and let's make plans. Let's book stuff, contact people. Tammy compiles all the stats from the previous year, which is amazing. And, then by the time I look up from all the planning and all the meetings and all the social media stuff, it was like, oh my God, the meet's in 2 weeks. So it stuck up super, super fast this year for some reason, because I kept a lot more busy this year. So that's just what I've been doing in the off season. As far as on Tuesday when we start, my day starts as early. I tweet out, what the day's races look like, maybe we're weather or off or what have you, whatever contest is going on that day, which we try to have something going on each day that's free for participants. And then I get the early changes and I try to, look at that, see how that's changed anything. And then I get to work and I get the changes they put, just like you and I were talking about, the ones on at 11, send my handicapping for my tip sheet, do my hair and makeup, which because I'm a girl is part of my job. Blech. And then I do a wire-to-wire pre-race show script for all of us. So I put the features, what races we're going to handicap. Bill sends me his picks. I put that in. I get the production schedule. I have a schedule that lays out every single thing that goes on between the races. Like, is the Twin Spires commercial going to run right now? Is the Bud Light commercial going to, well, we don't have Bud Light anymore, but you get the gist. Mm-hmm. And then at 1:30, we do the pre-race show. And it's when I have a break, I jump on TVG. And when I have another break, I try to do handicapping for the next day. And when I have another break, I do a production schedule. So all the while tweeting. So if anyone would like to be my assistant, please inquire anytime.
No, what the crazy thing is, Aaron and I and everyone here at the Racing Dudes and Horse Race, like, it's not just putting a ticket together for you. And it might seem like that to a lot of people. And we don't blame them for feeling that way, because they don't know what the process really is. I just remember my first, when I was doing my capstone at Rachel, to your point about the 12 credits, I had to put down a football rundown, and I was like, I don't care about this hacky sack race in the middle of the field. And someone's like, well, your sponsor cares about it, so make sure it's done properly. And I was like, oh, okay. And, and that's normally the time when people are like going to the bathroom or smoking a cigar. Like, they're not worried about it, but other people are. And I think that's really, really important. One of the things you talked about, and we'll get to that now. You talked about it in the first block. I'll try to be professional. The first block, it was about you get to go to the Derby, which is awesome.
Please don't try to be professional on my account.
No. That's on my account. That's on my account. Just the fact you get to go to the Derby and you guys don't race on Friday and Saturday. And Aaron and I, who do this for a living, are so excited because we talk about all the time how many tracks get so much handle, so many bets and things like that on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays when no other tracks are open. So I'm sure a day like Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday are huge for you guys.
Yeah.
Everyone locks in. Aaron said it all. Aaron watches more of the smaller tracks than I do, I'll admit, but I always watch Indiana Grand because what else am I watching on a Tuesday? So kind of talk to us about maybe why you guys have that schedule, which is a fantastic one. And have you seen the benefits of that? Obviously, not racing Friday and Saturday is great for you. But in terms of racing fans, just the way that, everyone wants to bet on something. And the bigger the tracks, the more money that it's going to gravitate towards that. And the fact that Indiana is running on Tuesday makes a huge difference.
Yeah, there's a whole aspect. And you can't make everybody happy. It does suck for the people who, they work and they used to come on the weekends. But when you look at what we're going up against on Friday and Saturday, and even on Thursday, depending on what part of the year it is, because we race 120 days. I mean, we have a really long meet. one of the, I always hate to say it, good things that came out of COVID was that we found out that, we knew that we weren't going to be able to do all the events on Friday and Saturday. So why would we run on Friday and Saturday? When we started, we didn't even have anybody that was allowed to come, period. Yeah. So only the horsemen were there. So when we moved it Monday through Thursday, we realized that we really hit our stride. We had record days. We used to, when we were in Tuesday through Thursday, we'd have $1 million days, $2 million days, whatever. It'd be on stakes days or Wednesdays or whatever. And then Fridays were meh, and Saturdays never really good. It was mainly for the people and the fans. When we switched to Monday through Thursday, it was like the norm. It was like $2 million handle, $1.5 million handle over and over and over consistently. So it does suck for people who like to come on Saturdays, but it just was the smartest move for us at the level that we are. And it's raised the level. We were already on the rise, yep, I believe. And then it's just raised it even more, I think. So it's just, that's another thing that people don't really, industry like decisions. There's not a lot of people who get that kind of stuff or the goings on behind the scenes, but racing isn't just all about the Bob Bafferts and the Steve Asmussens. I mean, there's people in Indiana that make a really good living. And it creates a lot more diversity and a lot more different stuff to bet on. But that's what I always say. I mean, we're like the only thing on a couple days that week. Not the only thing, but I mean, it's pretty great quality racing anyways. And then when it's only on Monday, Tuesday, we get more of the action. But we have, Saturdays, and that's why we have that later post, like 325, because I think it will work out with some of the other tracks I think that are running at the time on Thursday, but also because we can have like a Thirsty Thursday kind of vibe here. We're still, Indiana's still kind of iffy right now. So we've kind of moved some of it to June. So we're hoping in June, like we're going to have a bunch of like event days. Like I got those blow up T-Rex costumes. I'm going to make the jockeys race in them. We're going to have International Fest, which that's really for the horsemen. The jockeys love it. Tommy Pompel's getting off his horse. Like, yeah, it's straight for Indiana, or United States. Like they all talk crap and they get on their little USA and Mexico teams in Brazil. And it's really fun. And then we're going to have exotic animal racing for the first time this year, which is sweet. We always do the PDGF night. We're not going to have a dunk tank this year because I always have to get in the dunk tank. And so I'm excited about that. But yeah, we've got a lot of cool events still that we're going to try to do, even though we're kind of off to a slow start. So yeah, that's one of the things that I'm excited about.
And Aaron, I'll throw it here. You are, you've been following Indiana Grand long before I ever even got into racing. I'm only 24 years old, so I'm still learning.
Listen, you guys talk. My lab, I got to let it in. And I know you're scared of dogs, but you guys just hold on and you finish your thought and let me get this. She ran off chasing birds earlier. I'm going to let her in. This is why you have me on podcasts. Everybody loves it because I'm so random and hilarious. Time out.
Aaron, we'll keep it going. And folks, if you guys get a chance, you could see scrolling at the bottom, they obviously have the new post times and their 15% takeouts on pick 4s and pick 6s and just under 12%, 11.99 on the pick 5 as Aaron turns around to see if his dog is behind him.
I know. I'll say, we're going to see. We'll share dogs. But
maybe I should turn around and see if there's a dog creeping up behind me. For someone that you just missed us turning around to make Aaron check to see if his dog was there. I also turned around knowing I don't have a dog.
I could go get my Chihuahua, just really scare the crap out of you.
I still turned around anyway. We were just talking about. I was saying to everyone if they get a chance to scroll at the bottom, obviously the new post times, but the takeout percentages on the bigger bets. And I was going to throw it to Aaron here, and then you guys can talk about it. 15% on pick 4s and pick 6s, and just under 12%, not 12%, 11.99% on pick 5. So, Aaron, I'll let you kind of speak of that, and then I'll throw it back to Rachel. Just kind of what that means for us, for what we do, and fans. I think the bigger of a chance that they can keep their money or at least make it back and then make a profit. It goes in cycles. The better they feel about themselves, and the lower the takeout percentages, it really seems to make a big difference.
Well, a couple of things. That exotic animal night, Rachel, be ready. That will get a lot of people.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
It's crazy. Like, okay, this quick story. Prairie Meadows, I was up there one day, and Prairie Meadows, they draw decent, but nothing great. And they said, hey, my trainer, I used to own a couple of horses with Kelly Von Hemel, and he said, get here 30 minutes early because you're in the first race. I said, oh, come on. The traffic was backed up for like a mile to get into the parking lot. It was crazy.
No way.
Yeah, it was crazy. Now, COVID, and I don't know when you're going to, how that's going to work. Hopefully when you do it.
It's not until July. So I feel like it's going to be, that's why we moved everything back, because we want to wait as long as we can so we can be at full capacity. I've heard it's insane. I've never been.
My wife and I were driving in, and we were like, Kelly is just pulling our leg. Like, he's going to make us get here early. And then what are we going to do? He was right. Like, we barely got there in time for the first race. It's crazy. I don't forget the pick 4, pick 5, the takeouts. That is awesome. Like, that right there should get you to play Indiana Grand, if not for anything else, because that makes a huge difference in those pools. So yeah, that is a really good thing you guys are doing. Listen, we have a comment here. The new drone is awesome, and I agree. So I think we need to take it up to the drone. Kind of explain. You shared it on social media yesterday. Kind of explain what you guys are going to do, because you said, hey, it's going to be different from anything we've seen.
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't want anybody to get freaked out. Like, I'm going to shoot the entire races, with just the drone. It's honestly just a little bit of it's an addition. Honestly, it's just like when you're watching, the Breeders' Cup or the Triple Crown races, they cut to sometimes a nice drone angle, and that's what we're going to use this for. And we're going to start, kind of slow with it, but it came up because, Eric, those shots are so cool. I mean, like, look at that. If you can see for a certain part of the race, the horses running right there, it's just going to be it's an enhancement, honestly. And I did have a couple of people concerned that we were going to change it. We're going to keep everything the traditional way you watch it. This is just going to be a sweet addition to it. And my guys are so excited, as you can see, sitting there messing with it. And it's going to rain here today too, so I probably won't get to, but I think Friday I'm going to get some new shots and some new footage with it. But yeah, I was literally sworn to secrecy. We have had this in the works since January. And like, the idea sprung right after the meet ended, and Eric was like, do not tell anyone about this drone, because we keep saying that. And I mean, I get that this is how racing is. Like, you copy ideas, like you see a track doing a cool thing. Like, I just saw Keeneland's doing a weather segment on their pre-race show like we do. So that's fine, but this idea was not allowed to be stolen. So I got threatened with my life to not tell anyone about it. And we're super excited to see what we can do with it. And even the paddock shot, like, it's a little bit lower, we kind of wanted like maybe a little bit higher of a shot. And honestly, we have the landing pad over. Once it's like, we've had drone shots before. Once something like this is so far above a horse's head, it's like almost registered in their mind as a bird. It doesn't scare them unless it were to run across their path or into their vision around their head. Once something is so far up, it's really not something that horses freak out about, which is another tweet that I got. They were kind of concerned, but we've taken all that into account.
We have a few questions about your handicapping and that type of stuff. So we're going to do some quick hits, a couple minutes or so. You don't have to get into any deep details, things like that. We will keep scrolling everything that Indiana Grand will have going at the bottom. And Jared, who's my boss and Aaron's coworker, we're both doing it at the same time. Love it. Every track should be using a drone. And so he's chiming in. Jared, thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. Well, let's put on that. Okay. Well, let's put on our handicapping hat and we'll do some quick hits. What's the worst or favorite thing about handicapping, or what do you like most about it, or what do you hate most about it?
Oh God, that's a good question. No one's ever asked me that. That's a good one. I won't put too much thought in it, but just like right off the top of my head, I'm not a math person, but for some reason I love looking at like percentages and this as a puzzle, like each race. I know people talk about putting the puzzle pieces together, but I think that's what I like about handicapping the best. And obviously when I give out winners is also a really great part of it. The part I think I hate is that, you know, you get criticized. You're putting your, you know, some handicappers who, you know, are looking, that's another big thing is like some people, they're just trying to make you the most amount of money that they can. And I'm going to try that too. But with being a track analyst, you're trying to give the public and people who don't know what they're doing, who in that group is the most likely winner. And sometimes people get, you know, criticize you for not, you know, oh gosh, why are you taking it 2-1? Blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm not going to pick against a horse that I think is going to win just because he has a bad price. Now, am I going to take him out of my pick 4 ticket because I want it to pay more? Yes, that's something. There's a couple races in the sequence that I did that. I was like, I'm not putting that in there. It's not worth anybody's money if it hits for that. I'm going to try to find my second, third choice that I think will pay a lot better so that you get value for your play.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great. We're going to get into that. Do you use any analytics to help? Aaron and I are big time form people, and we recommend you use any information that you find helpful. We are never going to say, don't use that. Like whatever you think is going to help you out. So is there anything you use, whether it's buyers, whether it's time form, whether it's just looking at the program? Is there anything that you use as a secondary tool to help you out?
I like Brisnet a lot. I like the prime power numbers, and I know everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people like buyers numbers, and I really like Brisnet. I've got a friend for you here, everyone. This is Angus. He's my free roam bunny.
Not a dog.
But anyways, yeah, I like Brisnet. I also, Scotty McKeever's Equine Edge, his algorithm is top notch, like really good. And I like that a lot too.
And so that's good information for everyone who didn't, you know, Aaron and I don't talk about those two things as much, but we didn't even get into the 10s and 20s and hundreds of other things. There's so much information.
Oh my gosh, tons of it. Yeah. We'd be talking all day.
It's up to the individual. Obviously, that's a complex question. To Rachel's point at the beginning, she said, just if you don't know anything about it, just find a number or a name or a color or something like that. Or if you're from New York, a horse that was bred in New York, something like that, just to keep yourself. And that was a complex question, but it's a fair point. We can get into a ton of that. What is your favorite race to bet or watch? Now, it doesn't have to be the Kentucky Derby, but maybe it's like for me, it's a 5.5 furlong turf sprint. Like that's just for me. Or is there something that, or maybe it's a long race. Like Aaron loves the Trails End. He's an Oak Lawn guy. It's one of his favorite races. Maybe not the best to watch, but I know he taught me about that. Is there something for you that you just say, I love this race? I might get it wrong, but I just love watching it, or I'm excited to bet it.
You know, I think once you're like a paid track analyst, you know, it almost, you don't even think about that stuff anymore. Like every race to me is interesting because, so I don't think there's one that I get super excited about. I love Kentucky Downs because it's like the European style. Those races really get me excited, anything like that. But now he's scratching on my stuff. You're interrupting a podcast. Get out of here, peasant. So yeah, I think those are exciting to me. But really, once you handicap each race, I'm just excited to see if the way that I predicted it is going to play out. Honestly, I don't care if it's a nickel race or, you know, the Kentucky Derby. I just want to see if the horses end up doing in every puzzle piece I put together. The pace scenario is all going to work out. That's what's exciting for me.
What is your favorite bet? We have 3 more questions, quick hit ones. Favorite bet to make? It could be anything you want.
Oh yeah, my favorite bet to make. I really wasn't really into the pick 4s and pick 5s at first when I first started. It was something that was, ticket construction is something that I feel like is a very intricate thing. Like you have to really build that up, I think, and figure out what you like to do, stack it heavy at the beginning, little bit like less at the end. I like exactas. I just am like an exacta box, like boring girl, nice $20 across, $10 across the board kind of person. Like I just like picking I hate superfectas. God, I hate superfectas. I feel like I jinxed on them. Like every time I bet a super, every time I bet a horse to win, it places. Every time I bet a horse to place, it shows. I'm very superstitious as well. Like I feel like if I bet on it, it'll always do. If I bet it to show, it'll get fourth. So I'm like superstitious as well.
and that's the way Aaron's going to get into it. And that's what the great thing about this show is I do a pick four and Aaron does like try boxes and exacta boxes because we think it's so important that not everyone plays one way. And this it's a nice way to diversify. So, and we'll touch on that a little bit more. Two more questions. Is there a horse you remember for a great cash, a nice winning ticket, or a horse that you hated and you're like, I'm never playing this horse again? Is there anyone?
Not really. I remember, God, what year was it? I cannot believe I can't remember the name.
I know that's a tough question.
I gave out. I can't remember the horse, but it was like 6 years ago. I'd have to look it up, but I gave, and I don't even remember what Triple Crown race it was. Maybe Kentucky Derby. We give away a $2,000 mega bet on the Derby, which is just, we give you $2,000 to place a win bet on a horse in the Derby. We do it for Indiana Derby. We do it for Kentucky Derby. The 1 year, like I gave out an 11-1 shot and the guy ended up winning. And I think it was when we did a $5,000 mega bet, like back in the day when we were just throwing money at marketing. And this guy won like $12,000. And I was just like, oh my God, I was like on cloud 9 for that guy. And he was so excited. And like, I looked like a brain surgeon. I was the only one that had it. And I think the only other analyst like I saw that had it was Zoe Cadman. So I was just super stoked about that. And I can't remember the horse, but that was one of the most exciting like ones that I remember. And it wasn't even for me. It was for somebody else. Yeah,
Aaron, this happened to me like 4 weeks, 3-4 weeks ago. Aaron's like, I can't believe that person just made that bet. And I was like, I'm more nervous for this person than I am myself. Like I'm freaking out. It's not even for me. It's not my money. I'm just so nervous for them. So I get exactly what you mean. Last question before we get into today's pick four sequence from Keeneland. Favorite sport or hobby outside horse racing? I know you grew up on it and it's a big part of your life, but there has to be something that you're like, I got to get away from the track. I can't look at a horse today. I got to go do something else just to take my mind off of it. There's got to be something out there.
I go trail riding with horses. We camp and we get up in the morning, start drinking beer and ride trails all day long. So I am so pathetic, but literally I go with horses when I'm not at work. But if I had to pick one that wasn't, golf. I golf with my dad and I like going to golf outings and I've gotten a lot better. I mean, I've been playing since I was in 7th grade, but never like consistently. And I've gotten a lot better in the last like few years. So I think golf, if I had to say, okay, no horses, you must get away from them, I would probably go play golf with my dad.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a common sport as well. It's also nice to do with other people, like you said. Your dad, and it's just nice. And you could still drink beer if you want to get away with it. It's nice that you could just go enjoy yourself. Thank you for that. But we brought you on halfway to do that, but also to handicap, and that's what we are. We are a handicapping show. Rachel was kind enough to send me her pick four sequence. I have a pick four sequence like I always do, and Aaron's going to break it down race by race. So you get a true diversity here. As of right now, they're still on the turf. Someone please chime in, whether it's Aaron or Rachel.
I'm checking right now for us.
Someone.
Same thing.
Yeah, so guys, please let us know if I'm incorrect. I know there was rain in the forecast.
Yep.
Yeah,
still on the turf.
So the way we're going to do it, we'll let Aaron go first, then we'll let Rachel go. And I'm just going to kind of take a back seat. I will scroll my ticket along with Aaron's in one thing, and then we'll have Rachel scroll separately. And I'll just kind of touch on a horse or two that maybe we didn't get a chance to talk about. So let's start here. I will share, like I always do if you guys are new. I'm going to share the entries with you guys so you guys could see. So we'll be off to the side here, and we're going to start in race number 6 here at Keeneland. Let me scroll down for you guys. I couldn't get that together. Here we go. Race number 6, 350. It's a maiden special weight race. Aaron, we'll kick it off with you. Race number 6. I don't believe the scratches are the 11, the 13, the 14, the 15, and the 16. I thought this was a wide open race. It's maiden special weight for 3-year-olds going 1 1/8 miles on the turf, 9 furlongs on the turf. Aaron, how did you kind of see this race playing out, and what are we doing here to kick it off?
Yeah, I kind of kept this one a little simple. I do think it's a pretty good race for a try or even an exacta because it is a little bit of a wide open field. But I really kind of fell in love with the number 12 Southern District. So I just did a $10 win wager on the 12 Southern District to kind of kick us off here. I think Chad Brown, his quote unquote slump that he had for the first 3 months, I think it's over. I think it's behind us. We're seeing him starting to win. He had a really nice horse yesterday win over this turf course. And now with the Southern District, second time out, first time over at Gulfstream Park, ran decent on debut, got third, beating a length and a half. Gets the stretch out in distance today. I like that. Gets Irad Ortiz aboard. I like that as well. Only negative was the 12 hole, but I'm just going to trust that Irad works out a trip here. So I kept it simple here. I went $10 to win on the 12 to kick things off.
Yeah, you can never go wrong with Chad Brown on the turf. Rachel, it's nice to know that we're starting off on the same path. You also used the 12. Talk to me a little bit about the 12, if there's something Aaron might not have touched on that you found interesting, or maybe a few other horses that you want to talk about and why you're including them.
Yeah, I ended up handicapping the card, and I went 12-7-5 in this race, and then I added the 2 in here as well in my pick 4 sequence. So he hit it head on. I thought it was interesting. I normally am also confused, especially in maidens, when you draw the far outside, but he was on the inside last time out, and I just don't think that was what this colt liked. So I don't mind it in this instant. And there's a scratch to the inside as well. Not anything crazy to note, but that is probably going to help a little bit. And the 7 Alexander Valley, another one stretching out, I think is going to like, has been so close in the last couple that was bumped late in that race, that last one at Gulfstream Park. So I don't think liked the trip there, and gets Johnny Vasquez here, which I love. And then the 5 looks like a nice option as well. Avenue back with Luis Saez, which I like to look at that as well. Some people, I mean, you look at jockeys, of course, like what they're doing, but when you see a horse, sometimes horses get along better with different kind of jockeys. I mean, it's just a fact. Louis rode him on his debut and he got second, so he's back up today. A couple of interesting ones like the 2 Sailor's Return and the 3. The 3's adding Lasix today, and actually tried Stakes Company last time out, and I think people are throwing that one out, but was so close at Turfway Park. And yeah, this is a lot bigger race, a lot tougher race, a lot tougher company, but I liked the show of that. And the breeding looks like grass. So yeah, the Dam has 4 winners from 5 starters, and 2 of them are proven turf winners. So that one you might, if you want to, I've tried to put together kind of a more conservative, I don't want to put too much, bank on it. I only did a $32 ticket, but if you want to spend a little bit more money, a nice long shot might be the 3. Maybe even not in your ticket. Maybe you want to bet that one across the board or something like that, just for some value. So that's what I think about the 6th race.
Yeah. I'll go now. I'm with you completely, Rachel. I'm with you completely, and Aaron on the 12. I don't need to talk about the 12 anymore because I think we covered that. The 7, you're right, just getting better and better. With each race, looks much better now in 2021 than he ever did in 2020. I'm really hoping Godolphin gets something out of this $2,150,000 investment. I wish I had that money that I could throw around on a Medagliadoro colt.
Wouldn't it be nice?
I wish I had some connections, but hopefully they can get the job done here. I just hope that this horse gets better, because sometimes for me, I'm scared at such a short price when I see a bunch of seconds, but it's only 2 in a row. So hopefully we can get the job done there. I'm with you on the 5 as well. I think Luis Saez getting back aboard. Luis Saez did a fantastic job with this one on debut at 14-1 and wasn't too far away from getting the job done. A horse fly like an eagle came back to win, who finished 3rd. So he did beat a next out winner. One horse that I did want to talk about a little bit was the 10 American Diamond, and I'll talk about it because Rachel talked about the two. The two Sailors Return, great name, by the way, debuted at Ellis Park on August 8th of 2020, and then we didn't see him until March 13th. That's a really tough ask. That's an extremely tough ask, and actually lost to Fly Like an Eagle. The same thing with the 10 American Diamond. We hadn't seen him in quite some time. So I think Rachel and I are on the same point where you could find a long shot here. I'm just going with a different long shot. But I'm with her in the fact that I think you could find one, because I think some of the lower or shorter prices are potentially vulnerable. Aaron, I want to throw it to you. Are there any? Obviously, you made a win bet on the 12, which I think it makes a lot of sense. We all put that horse on top. Is there a horse in here that if you were to play a try box or an exacta box or across the board bet like Rachel mentioned, is there maybe a long shot or a horse that you would have considered as well at a price?
Believe it or not, the 4 horses that Rachel used are my top 4 horses. So I would, if you're going to play a try, I would play the 2, 5, 7, 12 try. I really like the point you made, Rachel, on the 2. I think that is the long shot to use. And then listen, obviously the 5 and 7 are logical, right? And so those are going to be the logical horses. Those are the horses I'm worried about as far as cashing the win bet on the 12. But, I think the 2 has a lot of upside, and you're never going to hear me talk poorly on a Florent Geroux horse. I think everybody knows that. Let's watch this show. So, listen, I'm in total agreement with her on this one.
Yeah, that's always nice to have the guest on and the host.
Makes me feel good.
Yeah, no, we're off to a flying start. Rachel,
I'm rusty. You guys, this is I've only handicapped a few here, so I'm breaking. You guys are getting me back in the groove here.
Yeah, no, it's a nice warm up for next week. You can look at it like that.
If she kills it next week, I'm taking all the credit. Just so
there you go. I'll give it to you.
Rachel, are there any other horses that maybe you were interested in, or something that you forgot to mention before we move on to race 8? Anything you want?
No, I think we all hit it. Those are the highlight. All of those are the highlights for me for sure.
Yeah, I'll sum it up by saying I think the logical horses do make sense, but to Rachel and myself, I think there may be a long shot that you might want to throw in there just to
2 or 3.
Yeah, maybe 2 or 3. Maybe we can get one of those home and start off the sequence. Rachel, how about this? We go to race 7. We'll start with you here. Race 7, allowance optional claiming $75,000 for 3-year-olds going 1 1/8 miles on the dirt. So 9 furlongs on the dirt. We have a small field, very, very tight and compact field, but I think a very, very good field, very quality. And I think you can make a case for a bunch. So which way did you go in this spot?
So in this race, sometimes you try to start it out with good chance to get in there, and then you might trail it down. But because of the way that this sequence was, where it was a big field, a couple smaller ones, and then a bigger one, I ended up going 4 and then 2 in this race and 2 in the next one. And then I went back to 4 in the last leg. So it's a little different than what I normally do, but with a big field like we have, and then this, just like you said, compact one, it's just kind of the way you need to play it. I don't really see, a big chance for an upset in here. I went 1-2 in this race. I think the 6 Good Culture you can't leave out, like in your selections. I'm definitely going to include that one, but I think maybe we might get a little bit better of a price. Who knows on the 2 come post time. Tyler Gaffleon, Kinetic Sky, Brad Cox. Obviously he's on fire everywhere. Been racing Indiana Grand for a while now, and he's always done really, really well. Looking forward to who he's bringing to Indiana this year. But broke the maiden at Fairgrounds back in January, and then came back in March at Oaklawn, and that was a pretty tough race. Kind of lacked the kick there at the end I wanted to see. But I always think I use first time with winners as a little different, that's something that weighs with me as well, an angle. And I like the speed though in that last race, put up an 87 Brisnet. I'm not sure what the buyer speed figure is, but showed good speed. So it wasn't a lackluster effort by any means there. And then I also like the one Promise Keeper, Todd Pletcher. Louis Size, I think, is going to have a really good day today, to be completely honest. He's on some nice live mounts. This one broke the maiden on the slop. So if we end up getting a lot of rain by the 7th race, which I'm pretty sure is going to be the case here, I think the one Promise Keeper might be a good one to look at. And I know the numbers, you kind of look at, okay, the speed number is really high and it was on the slop. That's probably why speed favoring. That could have been the case there, but still a solid effort. Moving up in distance, and I think is going to like it because, he won by 5 in that race. So I threw a line through the Tampa Bay Derby. That was a grade 2. That was a huge jump for him. So I'm going to go 1-2 in this leg, the 7th race.
Aaron, I'll throw it to you. You also have another win bet, and you're staying on the path with Rachel here. You used the 2 Kinetic Sky as a win bet.
Yeah, as far as my take on this race and how I look at it as far as how to bet it, it's tough because I like the 1, the 2, the 4, and the 6, right? So you can't really play an exotic with those kind of prices, and it's a short field as well, which hurts that. So, yeah, I win a smaller win wager, a $10 to win on the 2 Kinetic Sky, and I think she laid it out pretty good here. 2 back, got the maiden broke at Fairgrounds. First time against winners, last time out at Oaklawn. Didn't run too bad, got 3rd, only beaten a couple of links. And, I think this horse is tactical, and I like that. Doesn't have to have the lead, can kind of sit off and stalk the pace. So, yeah, I think the 2 is going to be awfully tough in here. I did want to talk about the 1. He definitely is interesting coming out of that Tampa Bay Derby. And like she said, just draw a line through it. But that slop, that race in the slop was a romp. So if this horse gets loose, look out. And how about the 4? Coming out of the same race as Known Agenda. Of course, Known Agenda goes on to win the Florida Derby. He beat Warrior in Chief by 14 lengths. It's not like the horse was competitive, but it's still interesting that he exits that race. So, but yeah,
And he's adding blinkers, which I have as a key for the 4 as well. We have the same 4 again, Aaron.
Well, there you go, right? So we're either gonna do really good or really bad today in these 2 races.
At least we're in it together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. We have a friend either way. So, and then the 6. The only thing I don't love about the 6, I really don't like playing horses first time out against winners. Like I mentioned that about the 2. Last time out, first time against winners. Now I like it second time against winners. But the 6 obviously can win here, and he gets Joel Rosario, which that's never a bad thing, especially right now at Keeneland. But, as far as the wager, I win $10 to win on the 2.
Yeah, I'll just talk about the 6. I love my ear. I'm like a racehorse. My ears perk up when I see George Weaver outside of New York, and that's just a favorite angle of mine. I know the 2, the 1 Promise Keeper ran a much faster race over a sloppy track, a sealed sloppy track, I should say, versus the 6 Good Culture. But I don't know, Joel Rosario, he's like Irad at Gulfstream. I just don't want to leave him off. So I went 2-6. I didn't go 1-2. I went 2-6. And to Rachel's point, I think you have to leave a quality horse off here because I'm with her on the sequence, Rachel. We talk about sequence all the time. Yes, it's nice to have winners, but you can't just put 4 horses in every race. It doesn't work like that. You're not going to make money. You're going to lose money time and time again. So at some point, you just got to cut one off, and I think we're all in agreement. The 1, 2, and 6 in some form of order are the 3 horses to play. But I'm with you. I'm going to go 2-6. You're going to go 1, 2. So for the sake of our tickets, let's hope the 2 is the one that gets home and we can both stay alive. But using the 1, 2, and 6. It's going to drive your ticket up. And if it chalks out, which it can sometimes, that's just the way horse racing is, it's just not going to work out well for you. So is there anyone want to make a case for the 3 Playman or the 5 Core Values? I personally, I'm off. If anyone wants to try to make a case, I wouldn't doubt it.
In the 7th race, that one's a nice price, is adding Lasix. It's coming from turf. Don't think Light didn't go to dirt. So, those are just a couple of upsides if you had to make a case for him. And then I think the Core Values, I looked at Victoria Oliver's stats, and it's not a huge number, but when her horse, she finally figures out the maiden last race is a win, then her percentage is pretty nice when she comes back with winners. So her first time with winners angle that you don't like, Aaron, her percentage is pretty good. So those are a couple of things I did in my research.
Yeah, no, it's always nice when we've had guests on and they obviously know their stuff, which we didn't doubt. I am the last person who should ever criticize someone for bad numbers, because Aaron knows this. I will tell anyone that they're not doing well. I was criticizing Carl Broberg forever. He was winning at like 4%. Now he's up to 14%. Yeah, I'm that guy. I'm very annoying. Once you start proving me wrong, I'm the first one to come on and admit I was wrong. But I do think the 5 is an interesting horse. I'm with Rachel there, core values. Let's move on to the back half of the sequence. So that's race 8. Aaron, I'm going to throw it back to you. We have an allowance race for 4-year-olds and upward, going 1 1/16 miles on the main track. It's 8.5 furlongs. Folks, I want you to keep in mind we do have a few scratches, but the 1A Invader is staying in unless someone else has any information. The 1A wasn't also eligible. So with a couple scratches of the 6 Bungle Barry and the 12 Vintage Print, the 1A Invader is going to stay in. And Aaron, I liked Invader before over the 1 Opry. I'm kind of convinced this is going to be a tough entry to beat the 1 and 1A here.
Yeah, I went here with a try box. I just didn't love anybody enough to say let's make a win bet. I went with a 1, 2, 8, 11 try box. I'm with you. I think the entry certainly makes sense. A Pry, also not a horse that is too bad, himself. So I think both of the entries are tough. I was interested in Ocean Atlantic a lot, the 8 horse, making the first start in the United States for Brendan Walsh. I really love that Irad Ortiz gets aboard. I mean, you kind of look when these two hook up. The horse usually runs pretty well. They've only hooked up 5 times as far as Irad riding for Brendan Walsh. 1 win, but 4 seconds out of those 5 horses. So for what I'm trying to do here for a trifecta, Ocean Atlantic made a ton of sense for me. This horse has been in much tougher races than what he'll see today. So I really thought that was an interesting entry. I kind of liked the 2 Street Ready a little bit here. Second off the layoff for Ian Wilkes. I have a ton of respect for Ian Wilkes as a trainer. I think he does a fantastic job. Chris Landeros, a guy he rides a lot. So I just think the 2 is one to watch here, can kind of be forwardly placed, and I think can hit the board at a price. So at 8 to 1, I'll take every bit of that. And then with the 11 Baker's Boy, another trainer I have a huge respect for, Shook McGahee, gets Johnny Velasquez, and another combo. You don't see it very often, but 19 rides in the last year for Johnny Velasquez on Shug's horses. 32% of those horses won, 53% in the money. That's enough for me to include that horse and kind of hope, again, we get a little bit of a price, even if one of those 2 favorites win.
Yeah, Rachel, I thought this was a race, and you went short here also. Obviously, you're thinking the entry is going to be tough, especially with the 1A in as well. But you also used the 8. So kind of walk me through your thinking here. I thought this was, again, another quality group of fields. Shout out to Keeneland for putting another great card together like they always do. But what made you love the 1 and the 8 so much that you're willing to only go 2 deep here?
Yeah, I know. With a couple of scratches, I thought that this was a chance to save a little bit of money because the 9th race gave me a headache. Like, my head still hurts. So that's where I kind of was thinking. And I'm thinking that since we're doing the late pick 4 and it looks like definite rain, I'm anticipating a couple more scratches in this race. Honestly, I'm playing that game. I'm playing let's go with the couple that you really like and hope that a long shot wins, like later in the sequence or at that first race that I picked. That's really what my thinking was here. And I'm not going to repeat everything that Aaron said. It's a concern that Invader hasn't raced in so long. That's a question mark. But I think his running style is going to suit this race because he sits right off the pace there. And I think is going to be the running style is going to favor him here. Opry's even interesting. The 1, I think it finished 3rd. Or this is 3rd off the layoff, which I think is a key start, and has nice speed figures, but just doesn't seem to get the job done sometimes. He's kind of inconsistent, so I get why, I think the stronger one is the 1A. But I'm just kind of anticipating that there's probably going to be a few more scratches in this race. So I thought let's just go with a couple that I think are the strongest here.
Yeah. Then
Sometimes
Rachel,
you got to do that.
yeah, Rachel's talking about the 1, the 1A, and the 8. Obviously, the 1 and 1A are a coupled entry, and the 8, Ocean Atlantique. I didn't use the 8. I kind of looked at this race, and I'll go back to mine here. It'll scroll here. I went the 1, which 1 and 1A, 9 and 11. I thought that entry was really, really good. And again, this show that we do, and I think horse racing, the biggest thing we try to emphasize is ticket structure. If I think the 1 and 1A are that much better than everyone else, which I happen to think that's the case, I want to throw in a couple prices. Now, I understand their prices. Aaron and I try to disseminate this point all the time. You get a price because there's something wrong. Now, not wrong with the horse, but maybe a poor jockey or poor numbers. Like, you're getting a price for a reason. If everything was picture perfect, you would get a shorter price. So I understand with the 9, going to have to face horses that have run in stakes races before. Definitely probably a little outclassed here, but I really like Sherry DeVoe in this type of spot. And I think Adam Beschizza, not the best rider of all time, but Aaron and I talk about it. If you need to be on the lead, the instructions for a jockey are very simple. Just get to the lead and go. It's not a rider. Right. So I think you could eliminate, if you have that thought in your mind of, oh, I don't know about the rider, just get to the lead. They're all capable of doing that. So I like the 9. And I think the 11 for kind of the same thing. I love, Rachel, you might not know this, I love horses that have run from Aqueduct and come down to either Gulfstream or Kentucky. That's one of my favorite angles of all time. I told Aaron one time I was going to get that like tattooed on my forehead. It's just, I love that angle. And Aaron's even like said multiple times, like, it works. Whether you believe it or not, it works because they're in form.
It's so true. That's an angle. I mean, we use like Oaklawn runners run amazingly at the first start of the meet. I always look at them and put them in my picks, even if they're not as, fit the race as well. I think that you definitely have, there's plenty of those that tracks work well with each other.
Yeah. And I think, I really do like the Aqueduct to Gulfstream angle better, but I'll use it here. Shug McGahee obviously knows what he's doing, one of the best trainers of all time. And getting Johnny Velasquez, one of the best of all time. So that's where I went. I went 1A, obviously, and then the 9 and the 11, because I'm kind of with Rachel. If the 1 and the 1A, whoever you like better, is the best horse, and I believe that it's a very tough entry. You can make a case for both. I want some prices in there. So that's kind of where I went. Anyone else want to add anything before we get to the final race? Anyone want to touch on a horse we didn't mention, or a point that they want to tack on to, or anything like that before we move on?
I'm just so excited for this last race that I'm just I hate this last race.
Yeah. Aaron and I talk about it all the time.
Just end it here. Okay, bye. No.
I find it extremely frustrating when they end it on a maiden claiming race. In New York, they do it's like New York breds to make it even worse. It's New York breds. Not that the horses are bad. It's just really tough to figure out, and you can make a case for a bunch. So we'll stick with the order, Rachel. I'll throw it to you. I'm going to try to end your headache early. I'll let you talk about it, and then we don't have to talk about it again. Maiden claiming 40,000 for 3-year-olds and upward, going 6 furlongs. So they will sprint 6 furlongs. We do have a few scratches in here to announce as well. We have the 2, who is probably going to take some money, a Jack Sisterson runner, the 2 Derby Date, and the 6, who probably wasn't going to take a lot of money, Millsby for Dane Kabisky. So we are drawn down to a field of 8. Rachel, which way or how are you looking at this race to wrap up the sequence here?
Whenever a trainer starts out a horse at a maiden claiming instead of a maiden special weight, it's always a little, it's not that every time it is, but when there's first time starters in here, the 7 and the 1, which I liked the 2. I had Derby Day in my selections and it got scratched. So I went ahead and replaced it with the 1. Now I'm kind of thinking I probably just should have put like the longest shot on the board in there, which usually, will work out. And honestly, this first time starter, the 5, Brian Hernandez as a board for Mike Tomlinson might be a nice option if you want to throw some more money at it. But I'm going to go in this leg 1, 4, 7, and 8. So I do have a couple of first time starters in here because I just feel like with this kind of race, It's the last leg. This is one of those races that anything could happen. It's not one of those ones that's going to make sense. Either it's going to be the, post time favorite, or it's going to be someone that you're going to look at it and say, I wouldn't have picked that horse. So I kind of tried to pick who I thought a couple of first-time starters. The 7 No Angel with Irad aboard, Brad Cox, excellent connections. The dam has 2 winners from 3 starters, one of which is a stakes winner. This was it's a gelded 3-year-old, is in for the tag of 40,000. So I know Brad, and I know what he does with maidens. He runs them in maiden special weights in Indiana all the time. A lot of them come back to do really well. I'm questioning why he put this one in a maiden claiming for 40,000. So take that for what you will. The 8 Quality Warrior has showed really nice speed before. He's put up good numbers. He's been close. He just cannot get it done. And he's one of those horses, he's been running sprint distance. Maybe we should switch it up and do a longer distance. But, coach has got this one in, I think, where he's kind of tried 20,000 and was close. So he fits in here, and I think he threw him in. Who else haven't I talked about? The 4, I think, Perspective. Louis has been hot. I think he's going to have a good day. He might get down here to this last race, and this might make it a double or triple for him today. Coming from a maiden claim of 50, dropping down a little bit more, has been in at that $50,000 level at Gulfstream and was claimed a couple back and came into that 6 furlong race on a good turf really well and ended up just missing by a length. So those are my thoughts. This race is blah, and that's just the few things that I can think to say about it. Good luck, everyone.
Rachel's being very kind with her.
I am. As a track analyst, I don't have the pleasure of being able to speak at liberty about some of this stuff. So I've found it over the years to very easy for me to be diplomatic and find ways to say things nicely.
Yeah, it's something that we've all been taught as a kid. If you don't have anything nice to say, be quiet. So Aaron, I'll throw it to you now. You have a $5 win bet, which I guess kind of goes to Rachel's point. You're just going to take one shot because the horses that she talked about, the horses she talked about, which I'm using all 4 as well, nothing more, nothing less, the same 4, but they're probably going to be shorter prices. So I kind of get where you're going with. You got to take a stab or a shot with one and say, let's try to get it done, and you can make a little money here.
Well, right. Thankfully for me, I've never worked for a track, and I probably never will. So I can say what I think. And this might be one of the worst races I've ever seen at Keeneland. It's really bad. You made a great point, Rachel. I usually do not like first-time starters in maiden claiming races because it's usually a pretty good sign that they're just not very good. And the reason being, most times when you've got a first-time starter, you always have that hope of, hey, maybe we're going to have a good horse here. Yeah, he or she's not working out very well, but we'll try him in a maiden special weight once and just see what happens. To start at the claiming level, no matter if it's, this is 40K. It's not like it's a low claiming level, but to start at that is a pretty good sign that they don't think much of the horse. But when you look at the ones that have ran here, it's like, wow, a first timer could actually win this. I went $5 to win on Cornbread Hill. It's a terrible name, but I
gotta like it. Cornbread Hill. That's a redneck name if I ever heard one.
Making a start for Ken and Sarah Ramsey. Owner and breeder here. This horse. For some reason, John Velasquez is hanging around to ride, right? So, and I kind of think this one will go off a little bit higher odds than the 7 No Angel.
I actually think there's a jockey change on that one.
Is there?
Marcelino
Cornbread Hill, Martin Pedroza.
Yeah, it's Marcelino Pedroza. Sorry, I forgot to mention. Sorry about that.
Let's do a little changing on the fly here. I'm going to change my win wager to the 4 Respect.
I love when you can call an audible.
I can't say the horse's name, but Perspective. Where I'll change. Here's the deal. Yeah, I'm definitely going to change it to that because
I changed it for you.
Thank you very much. Boy, what a guy. I'm sorry you're afraid of dogs, but that was very nice of you. Look, this is the only horse. Oh, here's the deal. I love Dwayne Lucas. Everybody knows that. But I don't want him at a short price with a horse that just hasn't won and has had many chances. Where this horse, last time out, was, pretty good race. And Luis Saez is going to follow this horse here to Keeneland. I mean, not that he followed just for this horse, but he's at least back on, right? He could have said, no thanks. So, yeah, I think this horse definitely has the best race on the resume. And he's not a career maiden so far, right? Only 3 races. So maybe he jumps up and wins this one. I think the jockey change on the 1 is a pretty big sign. If you're going to use a first-timer, I would definitely go to the 7 now. Irad Ortiz jumping aboard for Cox. But sure, $5 to win on the 4 here. And that's code if you've watched the show for – Aaron doesn't really have any idea what's going to happen in this race. So I don't get on and lie to people. It's wide open here, but the 4 does have the best races on the past performances.
One thing, so two things real quick. Shout out Marcelino Pedroza. If you're listening, Aaron doesn't trust you. He doesn't trust you. No, I'm kidding.
I can message him right now. I can text him if you want.
Yeah, Aaron, you want – we don't want to get into the Aiden Green story, which means
listen,
really.
One time I tweeted Channing Hill. I said, you quit riding on a horse back when I was young. And he still does not like me to this day. Even though I've apologized to him in person, he still brings that up every time I see him. So please don't text Pedroza, please.
Oh, I'm kidding. He's a buddy of mine. He doesn't care. That's why, you know what? That kind of stuff, though, is why I had a hell of a time getting to Sean Parker on Twitter and like Rocco and stuff. And so I actually have like their accounts. And if I see that people are being a-holes, like I'll go in and just delete it so they don't see it, because it's not that I don't think that. It's just why I understand why would you subject yourself to that kind of stuff, because people can be jerks, or whatever. But saying that you quit riding on a horse, I mean, I don't think that's as bad as some of the other stuff that I've seen people say in your defense.
Yeah, it's
like I said, I had just got into the game. I didn't know what was going on,
It was probably a lot. There's probably a lot worse out there. I don't know what is out there. Rachel was talking about Rocco Bowen, by the way, to Sean Parker and Rocco Bowen, if you weren't aware. The one thing I do want to know, getting back to this final race, and then we'll wrap it up. The one I've noticed with these boutique meets, and I classify a boutique meet as like 3 weeks or less. And that's clearly what Keeneland is. Indiana Grand is not a boutique meet, not even close. Not even close. It's like one of the biggest meets out there. So it's definitely not. It's like Gulfstream and then like Indiana Grand. It's not a boutique meet. But Wesley Ward, I think, does whatever he can to get wins. And that's great. And you should be doing that. And that's why I'm not as afraid of the 1. Because to Rachel's point, when you see a maiden claiming debut for the first time, it is very worrisome, because it's like you try to debut that horse at a maiden special weight race, and Wesley Ward is the king of 4.5 furlongs. See that he gears them up for those extremely short dirt or turf races, just first time asking. But this is a homebred for Kenneth and Sarah Ramsey, who are some of the nicest people out there, and they do a fantastic job. Great horsemen and horsewomen. I think he just wants to get this one a win. And if it's a homebred that you didn't pay anything for, I don't think they care as much. So I think it might just be try to get a win. I'm just speculating. I have no information on that. I have no idea.
I agree. And I'd add to that point that Aaron and I made, that he made so more boldly than I, is that, because he can, is that doesn't always – That rule is there are exceptions to that rule. Like that doesn't carry as much weight with me at Indiana as it does at Churchill with these, connections and stuff. At Indiana, that's not something you think about it, but sometimes that's true. A trainer really just wants to get the win, and that's the kind of trainer they are. They're, a sprint trainer, a route trainer, whatever. So I think that's the case in this race, but it's not always the case. So, which is a good point for you to bring up.
Yeah, again, that's why whatever your definition of a boutique meet is up to you. For me, it's like a month or less. Obviously, Kentucky Downs fits into that. Indiana Grand again does not fit into that. But because they're starting next Tuesday, they'll be running for many, many months in a row. But it's just one of those things where you try to keep that in mind, like Saratoga, for example, or Del Mar. Like, people just want to get wins, and they might drop horses into spots that they normally wouldn't. And so it's not even just for Keeneland. Just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. I think that's an important point for everyone, not just today, just
the last like 3 weeks of our meet is like a headache. It's like a boutique meet. These Indiana trainers are like, they will run their horse anywhere it fits. And Bill and I get so like, your head wants to explode, because you're like, it's just, they're all just weird races, because they're just trying to get as many starts and as that last bit of, because then the Indiana breds, they've got all winter off. And so, yeah, that definitely, it's not just Keeneland. And if anybody wants a tip, I'm going to give it to you right now. There be some big bombs the last couple of weeks of the meet at Indiana, that's for sure.
Yeah, again, the state bred horses, things are up in the air all over the place with those when you get down to state bred. And we're going to see that. Aaron knows better than me for sure. We're going to see that with Oaklawn in the next few weeks. So we're going to see these Arkansas breds with a week off, 2 weeks off, and they will be running, because after the beginning of May, that's it until we see him again next January or so. So that's a great point that Rachel made. It's always nice when we could share something with the folks listening who weren't aware or never really thought about it. I think that's one of the things that we value here. So before we wrap up, let's all go through our sequence. I'll start first since I have it scrolling. In race 6, I went with the 5, 7, 8, 10, 12. I think we all agree the 12 is the best horse, but I want a few prices. I think you can make a case. Then I went with the 2 and the 6 in race 7. And I think, again, Rachel brought it up. You're going 1-2 or 2-6. Like, you're going in some form or fashion. Going 3 horses there probably just doesn't make sense. So try to narrow it down. If you have a lot of money and you don't care, then you can, but it might just decrease.
Or that might be a good one for a single because it's so short.
Yeah, right, exactly. If you do have a strong opinion, again, press it, and that's a fair point as well. And race 8, this third race of the sequence, I'm taking the entry, which should read 1A, 9, 11. I think the entry is much the best, and I want to take 2 prices, 2 speed horses that I think maybe can get the job done if they go gate to wire. And finally, I will wrap it up with the same horses that Rachel's using: 1, 4, 7, and 8, and more so to Aaron's point, because I have no idea. They kind of make a little sense, and I do really like the one. The Marcelino Pedroza thing is a little worrisome because he's not as good as Johnny V, but that's where I'm going to go. That's a $45 ticket. I'll throw it to Rachel now, and I'll switch, and then we'll go to Aaron. Rachel, kind of wrap up your sequence and tell us what race you're looking forward to, or what race you're really worried about, or any prevailing thoughts.
Yeah, I went 2, 5, 7, 12 in the first race, and then you pretty much went over the rest. In the second leg, I have 1 and 2. Then I went with the 1 and the 8, and then 1, 4, 7, 8 in here. This is it's a different sequence. It's kind of it's not the kind of sequence that you would normally. You kind of got to pick your spot. So I didn't have a strong enough opinion to single, so I went ahead and spread where I think the races are either going to be the most competitive or a complete question mark. And then in 7 and 8, where I figured it out, I went by a couple. I think that it's going to be pretty interesting to see how it plays out, especially that last race. And I liked the 6th race as a really good race. And I think that one, I'm excited to see how it kicks off and then how it ends, obviously. But yeah, mine's a $32 ticket. But if you wanted to, I gave you a few more long shots in there. I think the 3 was one that I mentioned in the 6th race, and the 2 obviously is a long shot. So I think you've got some chance for some value to get some money back if it goes through.
Yeah, fingers crossed we stay on the turf. The fingers crossed.
Yeah.
That would be really nice. Aaron,
Would.
Yeah, Aaron, I'll throw it to you to wrap up here, kind of give us some of your win bets and what race you're looking forward to, or anything you might be looking forward to today. Hopefully the weather cooperates.
Yeah, hopefully we stay on the turf, especially for race 6, because I am kind of excited to see a few of these run. I went $10 to win on the 12 there. I just think Chad Brown getting ready to get hot. He usually does at Keeneland, and like I said, had a big winner yesterday on this card. Race 7, $10 to win on the 2. I'm with you guys. I think you just got to pick 1 or 2 horses, go short, and hope you get through. That's the way the sequence sets up. And I'll take Brad Cox here with the 2 horse. Race 8, I did a try box 1, 2, 8, 11. Pretty wide open race. I agree. The favorite or the entry will be the favorite, and could win, but I think we could get some prices mixed in there, even if the entry does win. Race 9, I don't have any clue on this one. This is a very tough race. We'll see what happens, but $5 to win on the 4. I just think that horse has the best race last out, and hopefully he can bring it today.
Just 2 quick notes. Sorry, I did mention the 7 race 9. I'm not used. That's the horse I would have used 4, so I'm with Rachel. 148. You're right. That ticket would have been more. I'm going to only use 1 first-time starter. I'll use the Kenneth and Sarah Ramsey one, but I'm with Rachel. I think that the Brad Cox horse makes sense. And one other note, please check Rachel's Twitter out because she just tweeted or retweeted, I should say, them working on the drone. So if you guys are interested in drones, please check that out. Not only check that out, but please follow her. Her information is great. There's always some witty banter, which I find very, very intriguing because it's not just Twitter and social media, but mostly Twitter, I guess. Doesn't just need to be a strict professional. Like, have some fun with it. Don't be mean, people. Please don't be mean. Just go back and forth. Why you like a horse? Why you don't like a horse? Tweet out pictures of the track. It's during COVID. A lot of people can't go. So please try to be as interactive as possible. And I know Rachel does a fantastic job doing that. And another thing to note, she's close to 10,000 followers.
I am. I'm gonna have to shotgun a beer when I do that.
So let's help her out. Don't worry about me. I'm not relevant on there. Okay, check her out. Let's get her to as close to 10,000 as possible. And maybe there'll be a giveaway or so. Whoever the 10,000.
Oh yeah.
She'll figure it out. She'll work.
I love giveaways. We're gonna have a. I do want to mention. Don't forget. We didn't get to it. Did we mention the surface change rule that I changed?
Oh no. Go ahead.
I couldn't remember because we talked about it before we were on, and I wasn't sure. But we also got the surface change in the middle of a sequence rule change with the commission, or Eric did. So now you get a free bingo spot and the all button if you get if we go off the turf in the middle of the pick 5, 4, or 6. And the lower takeout is going to be awesome, and the new drone, and I'm really excited.
Yeah.
That is all. So
one of the things we talked about, I guess, was more so we talked about it before we came on. We didn't mention it on live, but Rachel brought it up to us that you could look at it 2 ways, right? Where it's like you're not getting screwed because you're getting it all, but it's going to bring you down because everyone advances. I guess I'd rather not be screwed. That's me. I'd rather just get the free all.
That seems to be the general consensus. I really think everybody just thought that they were getting totally gypped when they got the post-time favorite when it came off turf. So yeah, I'm glad we did it. I mean, I just like making the bettors happy.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest, to Rachel's point there, if you're all getting the post-time favorite, then you're kind of getting burnt anyway. So yeah. It's kind of one half the dozen of another. Yeah. And I'll scroll this again really quick before we wrap up. Is there anything? First of all, thank you for coming on and taking. We call it the Rocket Hour. We call it the Rocket Hour, but a lot of people who watch us every day know it never lasts an hour. We just have so much fun coming on here. Is there anything you want to that we didn't get to mention, or anything you're extremely excited about? I'm so happy we were able to catch you right before your meet started, because I know you'll be working every day consistently, and your off days, we do not want to bother you. They're your off days. So we're so happy we were able to catch you. Is there anything you just want to mention that could be coming up in the plans that you'd like to share with us, or anything that that you guys are introducing that you're excited to talk about? Any final words?
I think honestly that we covered all of it. The only thing that we forgot was the surface change rule. And I just wanted to thank you guys for having me on and reiterate how special you are that I got up so early today and I put together a pick ticket for you, because I am the nighttime drink beer talk on podcast kind of girl. That's how special you guys should feel. That's how much I love you. I came on a podcast at 11 a.m. I am not a morning person, so.
Yeah, it's funny you point that out, because it's one of we do it, and one of the things we'll wrap up by saying this. Rachel said, the morning," and I was like, yeah, it's just because we try to do this right, where it's like people are getting
before Keeneland
now. Yeah. And it's like, to do it the night before, you can do it, but it's like the thoughts, you go to sleep, then you wake, like it's just, we just thought the information's fresh. we could obviously do a whole card, but we just figured the last 4 races was smart to focus on. So we've just kept it, and it's great because Aaron does race by race. Like you mentioned, your favorite race is an exacta box or tri box, and for me, a pick 4. So there's a great diversity for the bettors. So it was really, really nice to have you on. Please invest your hard-earned money into Indiana Grand next week and for the rest of the year. Again, once these bigger tracks open, they're not going to be open on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Obviously, they have great racing. Indiana Grand has stakes races during the week. I mean,
on Wednesdays. That's also the Indiana Derby we're going to have in July. It's going to be huge. We've got Caesar Stakes, and they're all on Wednesdays, so you don't have to wait for the weekend to have fun. That's another thing that I think is awesome about our meet.
Yeah, no, exactly. To your point, people we saw during COVID, people want to bet and gamble and wager whatever on something.
Remember, there's a $4 million day at Fauner Park. Do you remember that?
Aaron, I looked at some of those numbers and I was like, where is Fauner Park? What is Fauner Park? And Aaron's like, dude, like you need to check into this. And that was granted, to Rachel's point. It was like Oaklawn, Fauner, and Gulfstream. That was it. There were no sports. Yeah. You had to bet on like darts in Russia. That was it. So,
I don't remember that bowling and there's random sports on that we were all betting on because there's nothing to watch. Poor Eric Hallstrom. He's like all sports fanatic, and he was just like, I don't know what to do with myself. He was like, I don't know what to do. There's no football, there's no basketball, there's no nothing. He was like banging his head up against the wall this winter when we didn't have anything, and I know a lot of guys were. I was.
It was crazy. It was like I started to watch. We were all watching shows on Netflix we never had an interest in, and we just try to pass time. So it's great. And Rachel talked about the final point, just different post times. So if you guys feel like dipping out of the office early or getting out to a track or whatever it is, new post times as well, which is fantastic. The weather's getting warmer. Things are starting to turn around. But we will sign off here. I know Rachel's busy, and we have some stuff to get to as well. We will be back on tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. to recap how poorly I did and how well Aaron and Rachel did. We will do that. And then we will do some stakes action as well. It's a massive, massive Saturday at Oaklawn Park. And it's the final Derby prep as well. They have the Lexington Stakes as well. Not at Oaklawn, but we'll touch on that as well. But this is it. And then we have a couple weeks off. If you get a chance, Rachel will be at the Kentucky Derby.
I'm working the stakes room. So
I'm very, very jealous. I'm very, 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 very jealous. I've been begging Aaron to try to get me there. I know, obviously, he's not doing it on purpose. It's just
I've never been to the Kentucky Derby. We have raced.
Same.
We have raced I work in racing and we race. So I'm like, and we always have a hat contest that I have to MC or some kind of event. It's not like I can just like take off and not do, the contest on one of the bigger days. So I'm like, I was just going to go. I was just going to make Ed and Joe let me sit in the corner of the studio and just watch. And then Gary or Ed actually called me and said, you want to work it? So I'm like, I'm going to get paid and I get to watch the Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks. I'm stoked. Like, how did I get so lucky?
Yeah, I'm extremely, extremely jealous. Aaron knows I've never gone as well, so I'm begging. Yeah, I know he's doing whatever he can. So
the problem, it didn't used to be a problem with COVID. They limit what we can get. We used to be able to get 4 or 5 passes, but I think 2 is what we're going to get now. So
maybe next year.
Yeah,
exactly. Hopefully, that is the case. So we'll wrap up here. Rachel, good luck. More importantly, to your meet next Tuesday and forever. I've never been to Shelbyville, Indiana. I didn't even know where Shelbyville, Indiana was before Indiana Grand, but I really want to get out there. And again, there's nothing like some Tuesday and Wednesday action and have fun at the Derby. If you're working in sports, sometimes you have to sacrifice watching or going to something because you're working an event yourself, and Rachel can speak to that better than anyone else. If you guys missed a part of this, please rewatch the live stream tonight, sometime this afternoon, play it in the background. There's a ton of good information. Rachel talked about Indiana Grand for the first half hour to 40 minutes or so, what she loves about horse racing, how she kind of got involved in it, her favorite bets. She put on her handicapping hat. There's so much great information here. And hopefully we could find some time in your schedule for you to come back on. Hopefully in the future. I know your schedule's busy, but I'll try to do it at night. We'll make a special edition.
No, You do not have to do that for me.
We'll do it at night. Without further ado, everyone, again, we will be on tomorrow at 11 a.m. recapping and doing stakes preview. More importantly, everyone, please stay safe and stay healthy during these times. That's the most important thing. And good luck today if you're playing Keeneland, whether you're playing with either three of us or doing your own thing. Good luck today. We will see you guys tomorrow, bright and early, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Everyone, take care and have a great rest of your day.